Hello, this is Smooth Traffic and it's episode 36. Hello, welcome back. Nice to see you again. In this episode we're going to talk about Formula 1 and the new world champion. I'm going to review Gran Turismo Sport. We've got some chat about autonomous cars, and I'm in France, so there's a bit of culture chat here as well. And expect things to go off on a bit of a tangent because we're on one on this episode. We're on it.
So, we have a new Formula 1 world champion.
No, we don't. He's the same. It's the same. It's the same guy. It doesn't count.
It's not Nico Rosberg. He won last time.
Yeah, but that was a one-off, wasn't it?
I like
so
your
Lewis
scoring system.
Hamilton has become Formula 1 world champion for the fourth time now in his illustrious career.
Yep.
And, well, I suppose he's deserved it this season, really. I mean, I'd rather have seen Vettel win, because I think the leaps and bounds that Ferrari came on at compared to last season were unbelievable. But sadly, Singapore, Vettel kind of sabotaged his own season without really meaning to. And
yeah, that was it, wasn't it? Singapore
Yeah.
killed the title. Really, it's a shame, but yeah, these things just happen, don't they? It's been a good season, I'd say, but
Yeah, definitely.
At the same time, it's obviously quite frustrating to see Mercedes just walk away with everything again quite easily in the end. So I'm a bit sad about Formula 1 still, but I just hate Hamilton. I just hate him. I just think he's an arrogant bastard, and I just can't get past that. I mean, he's obviously talented, but he never comes across well. He tries way too hard to be fashionable, and I just don't like him. So I'm not going to say congratulations. I'm going to go up yours, Lewis.
So do you think that somebody else in that car would have, still managed to win it, or is he a cut above the rest? Because people are saying he could be like the greatest British sportsman or something like that.
Oh.
It seems a bit much.
I mean, I will say, if you look at his teammate Valtteri Bottas this season, for most of the season he's been well off of the pace that Lewis is managing. I mean, I'd love to see someone like Fernando Alonso in the Mercedes with Lewis, or maybe even Max Verstappen would certainly be an interesting one to see, because I think he has shown, albeit for the huge number of DNFs that he's had, he's shown himself to be a hugely accomplished driver at such a young age. And I think if anyone's going to threaten all of the records that Michael Schumacher laid down throughout his career, I think Max Verstappen could definitely be the one to do it. What is he, 17? Is he 18 now?
I think
19?
he's 18 or 19. Yeah, but even so,
That's insane, isn't it? Really.
yeah.
And you think Hamilton is a good 11 or 12 years older than him?
Yeah.
And without wanting to put any disrespect on it, in that space of time, he's only won 4 world championships. Whereas you look at the way that Max Verstappen's driving now as a young kid, and he's only going to get better as he matures. And he's going to be much better with decision making and things. And you just think there's no reason that he couldn't dominate the sport for maybe a decade.
Have we got another Schumacher in the making, do you think? Not Hamilton, I mean, because I think he's probably a bit too old to clinch another 3 titles.
I can't see... there was a little bit of chatter about that sort of after the race in Mexico, but I can't really see Hamilton getting to 7 world titles. I think there's just too much of an ask now. But I see no reason why Max Verstappen couldn't equal or even surpass Schumacher's record if he gets a good run of cars, because certainly the Red Bull has come on immensely since the start of the season, and if they could sort out their sort of qualifying and stuff, then we could see them right back at the top and sort of dominating the sport again. But then has this deal for the engines with Renault and obviously impending Honda deal in a couple of years, will that put the kibosh on that, or will Verstappen then move elsewhere?
Yeah, I think he's buggered up a bit by signing a new contract with Red Bull because of that impending engine problem. Because it does look like they are going to have Honda's engines, and Honda's engines have so far proven to be absolutely dog shite. So it's unless they pull out a miracle, which is what everybody's been hoping for the last few years with McLaren, I think he might have buggered his next 3 or 4 years up, because I don't know how long his contract's for, but I thought it was 2020 or something like that. So unless one of the bigger teams comes and buys him out, or there's a big change in the regulations and suddenly Honda can build something that's really competitive, that might be a problem for him. I would like to see Max move to Ferrari to replace Kimi, but I don't know if that's going to happen, because for some reason Ferrari keeps signing Kimi on another contract, even though he's kind of shown that he's not really got what it takes to challenge for the top prizes anymore.
I mean, I think what Kimi's shown is that he's a very good number 2 driver now.
Yeah,
like, he will toe the party line. He'll do what needs to be done, but yeah, he's not going to be threatening for race wins unless a very particular set of circumstances sort of crop up. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Max Verstappen at Ferrari, but yeah, I just can't see that happening in the next couple of years. I mean, the thing that concerns me most is that Fernando Alonso, who I think everyone can agree is one of the sort of top 3 or 4 drivers on the grid at the moment, I'm worried that when he left Ferrari to join McLaren again, Ferrari suddenly got better. And my concern is that now that McLaren have split with Honda and joined up with, well, Red Bull in a couple of years, but Toro Rosso initially, I'm concerned that Honda might start churning out decent engines now, and Fernando once again is going to be in that awkward position of having just missed out by a season or so.
It would be typical of Fernando for that to happen. But,
it really would.
I'm really surprised that he signed a new contract at McLaren. I honestly thought he was going to call it a day, end of the season, and just go Le Mans racing and Indy racing and stuff, just to sort of try and get the Triple Crown. But he's sticking around. I don't know why, but but he is.
I think his heart's still in Formula One, and certainly watching the Mexico race. I mean, the little tussle that he had with Hamilton when Hamilton was trying to pass him for, what was that, 9th or 10th?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, just that sort of back and forth. You can see that he's still a cut above most of the drivers in the field, even though he's probably got the 2nd or 3rd worst car. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they get the Renault engines in next year. I just can't see McLaren being a title contender. But then you never know with Fernando Alonso, do you? He can make something from nothing.
Apparently, the McLaren car is really, really good, but it's the engine that is terrible. The theory is that the McLaren is kind of just as good as the Red Bull in terms of the actual car, but obviously the Honda engine makes it wank. So it's right at the back of the grid. Whether that changes next year, I think there's going to be a big rule change in 2020 or 2019. I think that's when they're discussing the next big change in the rules. But by then, I think Alonso would have definitely have retired, and I can't see him winning another title, to be honest. Just can't see it happening, because I think Mercedes are going to run away with F1 until the next regulation change, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, Mercedes have struggled this season. If they get stuck behind someone, I don't know if it's their aero package or what, but I mean, we saw in Mexico that Hamilton being so far back, like Vettel just sort of scythed his way through the field to get back up to what was eventually 4th place, whereas Hamilton struggled for a fair whack of it just to end up in, what was he, 8th, 9th?
Something like that, yeah.
So obviously that car isn't perfect, and I know that it'll be a completely fresh car for next year, but it just depends whether they can iron out those kinks that they've got issues with. Whereas, Ferrari and Red Bull have got things that they need to work on just as much. But I think I can only see it being more competitive next season. I think there's going to be less of a gap again, and I think there will be more teams in the mix at the top. Certainly the big 3. I just don't know if anyone else can push on. I know that Renault are quite hopeful that the Works team can sort of push on, but I do think they'll be fighting out with obviously the Mercedes powered cars, Williams and whatnot, and McLaren as well. So they'll certainly be fighting for best of the rest. But
was it Ben earlier on who asked the question? Would anyone else have won the world title in a Mercedes? I think Alonso definitely. Hulkenberg, I think, is capable of it, because I think he's a very, very good driver. Obviously, Vettel can win it without having that car. Ocon is looking really good. I don't think he's far away off being someone who could potentially challenge for a world title.
Obviously, Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Max would. Well, you know what would happen if Max and Lewis were teammates? Lewis would have a tantrum. No, someone's just as quick as me. On the radio all the time. Best friends in the world. Blessed. Be really annoying.
I mean, that's basically what happened when Jenson Button moved to McLaren, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, Lewis Hamilton. I mean, Jenson's written an autobiography, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, but there were a few excerpts on the BBC website because he gave an interview about it, and and that sort of said that obviously when he moved to McLaren from Brawn, he sort of said that at the time it was very much Team Lewis Hamilton, and then suddenly it was this thing that Jenson, reigning world champion or whatever, coming in, and then the dynamic of the team sort of changed, and it was the British team rather than just focused on one driver. And yeah, apparently that wasn't quite to Hamilton's liking. So certainly getting someone younger and just as good in, like Max, would be very interesting. But I can't see Toto Wolff going for
no, because Toto Wolff's wrapped around Hamilton's finger. But I would just love to see someone do something to upset Hamilton again, because he's shown that when he's upset, he's actually not a very good driver. It's only when everything's perfect he's actually quite good. And whenever something's like on his mind or has upset him, he's not there. Like when Button had the beating of him at McLaren, I think, and Hamilton made loads and loads of mistakes and stuff, and he wasn't very happy. Oh, I hate him. I really hate him.
I will tell you the one thing that annoyed me from this weekend was the Channel 4 coverage. Obviously, was very
in general.
No, the Channel 4 coverage was very Lewis centric, as you'd expect it to be. You know, because at the end of the day, it's British terrestrial TV. They're obviously going to support the British driver or drivers. But it was something that David Coulthard said afterwards, because they showed the interview with Vettel post race, who looked very crestfallen and obviously was saying, I don't really want to talk about my race. This is Lewis's day. He's become a world champion for the 4th time. He deserves to be the one that's, talked about. And I thought, that's a perfectly fair comment to make, because he's quite obviously hurting, so he doesn't want to discuss the fact that he's lost out on that world championship. But then they cut back to everyone's favourite host, Steve Jones, and David Coulthard. And Coulthard said maybe that's why Hamilton had the beating of Vettel, because Vettel has obviously he lets his emotions get in the way, and obviously there you can see that he was quite emotional about the result and sort of has just closed up. And I just thought that's such a ridiculous statement to make, because if you think about Hamilton is you can't say that Hamilton is a driver that drives without any emotion. The times that he's shouting down the radio at people. And it just made me think it's such a stupid comment to make, and I've come to quite like David Coulthard as a pundit, but that really annoyed me, because I thought he's not saying that from an unbiased perspective, which I think he should be trying his best to be. Yeah. He's never neutral when it comes to a conversation about Hamilton. That's what I've noticed. He's so in love with Lewis Hamilton that he's completely and 100% in his camp whenever anything is discussed, and that's really annoying, because he's better than that, I think. And it'd be nice if some pundits came out sometimes and said that Lewis Hamilton is a bit of a dickhead, because he is. But everybody's so in love with him, even though half the British public hate him. Half the British public love him as well, but half the British public hate him. Nobody ever comes out and says, "Oh yeah, but he's a wanker, isn't he?" But he is, and all of this stuff about him being the greatest of all time and all this bollocks, and about him being better than other British drivers of the past, that's all bollocks as well. He's not a patch on the characters of Clark and Stewart, for example. And if Clark had lived, he probably would have had something like 4 or 5 world titles. But back in those days, you run the risk of not
fulfilling your potential, because you'd end up having a crash and you'd be dead. And
unless you were Fangio.
Unless you were Fangio, who did really, really well out of it, and obviously he came out of it unscathed, as some of the other guys did. Same thing happened with Senna. Senna would have probably have won more world titles had he not been killed. It's just a question of luck, really. And obviously, I'm glad those days are gone. I wouldn't want to see Lewis Hamilton get killed. I'd like to see someone punch him in the face, but I wouldn't want to see him get killed. And also nowadays as well, having 21 races in a season or whatever it is, compared to what it used to be, like 15, 16. The stats are kind of skew-iffed in favour of modern drivers, I think. So he's not the greatest. He's definitely not. He's not even the best driver on the grid. Fernando Alonso is the best driver on the grid.
I was completely agree with you, John. But I was thinking when obviously they were comparing him to the other greats that have won 4 or more, and I thought, to be fair, I don't really consider Sebastian Vettel as a 4-time world champion either.
No,
because he won those 4 world titles when Red Bull absolutely dominated the sport. There was, with the exception of the first title, there was really no competition for the following seasons. And it's been similar with, obviously, Hamilton with his 3 titles at Mercedes. With the exception of Nico Rosberg, there hasn't really been a competitor there for those first 2. Only in this one, obviously, Vettel was running him close. And you just think maybe if Verstappen hadn't had such bad luck with reliability, you wonder whether he could have been up there as well. So, it's one of those things, whereas, Schumacher had such a long career, and you can say that probably 3 or 4 of his titles there was little or no competition. But I don't know, I just feel that he did a lot more to prove himself as the best, certainly of his generation, if not of all time. So I don't know, it's difficult. It's all subjective, isn't it, really?
I would say Hamilton's first title was lucky as well, when the Toyota let him through with 2 corners left.
Felipe Massa, champion for 18 seconds?
Yeah,
whatever it was.
But that was a blatant move by whoever was in that Toyota to just let him through with two corners left. He wasn't even close to defending that corner, so he was lucky to win that title as well, which should have been Massa's that season, really, because Massa was outstanding in that season. Hamilton's just, I don't know, I just don't rate him. I just don't rate him. He's quick, but I don't think he's been the best of this generation, and I think he's been lucky to win 4 world titles. And I agree with you on Vettel as well. I don't think Vettel's one of the greats. If he can win a couple of titles at Ferrari, I think he'll become one of the greats, because Ferrari, I think they probably don't quite have the technological edge on Mercedes, and I think that'll go on for some time. I can't see anyone displacing Mercedes in the current formula, because I think actually Mercedes hold themselves back a bit. So we'll wait and see what happens next season. But the argument of Hamilton being one of the greats is, he's won 4 world titles, but he's not a patch on Alain Prost. I don't think he's as quick as Mansell was. I think Mansell himself said he thinks he can beat him, I think, even now.
He's also not as heavy as Mansell.
He's not, exactly. And all this bollocks around the fashion and the veganism and all this stuff is pure fashion. It's just...
That does remind me. Sorry to interrupt you, John.
No, that's all
right.
That
does remind me, on the radio, so someone had basically been speaking to whoever it was on the radio, and they were the official sausage supplier to the AMG Mercedes team.
That's quite a specific thing to be doing.
And the guy was like, so it's definitely all down to me that they won their Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship this season. And then the guys on the radio were just like, well, yeah, what else could it be? And then I thought, Hamilton's a vegan, so he's probably not even touched a sausage all season.
I didn't know F1 drivers even ate sausage. I just thought they just ate salad and oxygen. I thought that was all they were sort of allowed to digest nowadays.
Well, I presume it's just the same as any other sportsman, sort of pasta and chicken and, carbs and protein.
Yeah. Didn't you get a good sandwich when you were in the pits for that race, Johnny?
When you went to...
You threw it on the floor, didn't you?
Have I told this story on Smooth Traffic before?
Yeah, you have.
Have I? Oh, okay. Yeah, nice sandwich, threw it on the ground.
Yeah, go back several episodes if you want to hear more about that.
Yeah, that was a proper Andy Samberg moment. Hope people get that reference.
I did, so that's fine.
So, I'm in Paris right now. I'm just sat here, I'm recording the podcast with you guys, and in the background, I've got the TV on mute, and an advert just came on. I feel like it's important that I should mention this on the podcast. You know Danny Trejo, the old Mexican dude with the tattoos?
Machete.
Yeah, he's doing this advert, right? And you know how English people have problems with other languages, right? And we often have to have, like subtitles and stuff and things explained to us. Danny Trejo is doing this advert for cheese or Mexican stuff in France, and he said the words Buenos Dias. And bearing in mind that the French also speak a Latin language, so they should be able to understand that sort of thing. In the bottom corner of the advert, they've had Buenos Dias equals bonjour. I was like, what? How can that be? So I just thought that was funny and worth mentioning. It's good to see Danny Trejo on the small screen. Normally you have to pay £10 to watch him in a film.
I mean, I wouldn't get too excited. I saw him on an advert over here the other day for what was it, tortilla wraps or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that was the same.
So,
what a guy, though. I mean, he's been a great servant to the Mexican movie business. Great guy. Would love to get him on the podcast sometime. Danny Trejo, if you ever want to come on Smooth Traffic, then by all means.
Yeah,
and then we
can.
Do.
If you want to sponsor the podcast.
I wonder if we can have a bit during the podcast where we have to say what he's saying equals something else. Just.
I mean, we
really,
could do that
really
with
strange.
You constantly, John. Because you're always so vague, and you never have opinions on things. So
no.
We could always just translate.
Maybe we should redo the F1 segment, and where
what John means is Lewis Hamilton is his personal hero.
He's great. He's wonderful. He's the best person ever to drive a car, except he's not. I hate him. But yeah. But there we go.
So moving away from Hamilton ranting.
Sorry. Back to Danny Trejo.
What else has been tickling your fancy in Paris then? Seen anything saucy?
Well,
car-wise?
I've seen a lot of really nice cars actually. I saw a Porsche 928 today in perfect condition just pull out of a junction in the town that I'm staying in. Because that's the other thing about Paris, right? Paris to the French is just the little bit in the middle where all of the big posh buildings are. Everything else is just a town outside of Paris, which I think is bollocks because everything is connected by the trains, by the buses, geographically, everything is joined together, so it's all Paris. But no, apparently not. Apparently I'm staying in a town called Gagny, but that's not true because it's Paris. So if any French people are listening, you're wrong about your own capital city. It's all the same place. Stop overcomplicating it. Thank you very much. It's Paris. There we go. I was talking about.
Do people like the Abarth?
Do people like the Abarth? Well, my French friend Audrey, she thinks it's too loud and too silly. Another French friend of mine called Jessica, she thinks it's a boy's car. But Andy, who is Audrey's boyfriend, I'll let that go, Ben. He says it's great, which just proves that
it's a boy's car.
It's a boy's car. So Jessica was right all along. It is a boy's car. But I think it's a wicked little car to have in a city like Paris because it fits in everywhere. I've had no problems in traffic. I can squeeze in places that are really awkward, and when the traffic's really heavy, I can squeeze out and fit in little spaces I couldn't in other cars I've owned, like a Octavia VRS or the 3 Series BMW I had. It's great. It's perfect for the city. And obviously when you want to blast through a town, or Paris, as it's otherwise known, you can just switch it to sport mode, have a really, really loud exhaust, and offend everybody in the street, which occasionally is good fun because sometimes the French can be very, very rude. So it's nice to be rude back. Yes.
Hang on.
Yeah,
what?
they can.
The French can be rude?
They can be rude, yeah.
Well, nobody's ever told me this before.
Like cashiers at a supermarket in France, not only do you have to queue for 50 minutes every shop you go in, but when you eventually get to the person who's going to scan your tasty, tasty French cheese, she just looks at you like, oh yeah, what do you want? Like that.
Is that because you said, "Oi mate, do you take pan coins?"
Well,
they said, yeah.
You know, I've been watching Asterix.
Yes.
I've realised that when I speak French, I sound exactly like the Bretons in Asterix and the Bretons. Which is why the French get incredibly annoyed with me, because on Asterix, they sound ridiculous. They sound really stupid. And then obviously I come along and go, oh, bonjour, est-ce que je peux avoir? And they think I'm an idiot. Also, they think I'm an idiot where every time I reach a péage machine, whereas in my old cars I could slide across to the passenger seat to take a ticket out, I can't do that in the Abarth because it's just impossible, and I would end up with something plastic in my arse. I have to get out of the driver's seat, walk around the back of the car, apologising to the people behind me, take the ticket, and then run, doing a little chubby run now because I'm getting a bit fat, little chubby run back into the driver's seat and drive through the thing before the barrier closes, and I have to put my seatbelt on while I'm moving, while somebody in a Renault Megane undercuts me on the other side.
I tell you what, we need to get you for that. It's one of those little grabby things that people use to pick up litter, or old people use to pick things off the floor.
That's
you
a really
lean
good
across,
idea.
grab.
Yeah. I could do with a grabbing stick, actually. That would be really.
That'll
really
just make
good.
him fatter, though, Ben.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Another thing I've noticed about France is, you know how wine is really cheap here.
Yeah.
When I was in an ordinary supermarket earlier on, just before I met the rude cashier who didn't want to talk to me, I noticed that there was a bottle of red wine for sale in an ordinary supermarket that was €449. What is in that bottle? Pure gold. So anyway, I sort of scoffed at that and thinking, oh yeah, wine's so cheap in France, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind, this is just an ordinary crappy supermarket in another town outside Paris, which is just Paris. So I walked straight past that.
The thing is, you can literally pay like €2 for like a 4-litre bottle of red wine as well. You know, like a plastic bottle. You're like, ooh. Good for cleaning cars with, I expect. But
because I'm not very good at drinking, I have purchased for myself this evening, on the way back from Paris, a Côte du Rhône application d'origine protégée. It's a little bottle. It's 37.5, so it's a half bottle of wine, and it was €2.34.
Oh.
And it's just the right size for someone like me who is shit at drinking but likes wine. So I've got some cheese in the fridge. I've got some bread that the cat has helpfully knocked onto the floor, and I've got some of this lovely wine as well. But don't believe everything you hear about France. There's loads of expensive wine here.
well, that's because they know how to make wine, so they obviously make good wine as well. It's just that their cheap wine is also good, I think is the point.
They are incredibly annoying like that, though, aren't they?
What, being good at making wine?
They're just good at making things. Like, since I've been here, bread has been incredible. You know, I'm at home in England. I'm eating some bread. It's like rubber. You know, it's not doing it for me.
Where are you getting your bread?
I come here. Today I've bought what looks like a baguette but is flatter, and it has the French red label badge on it, which I thought meant great. You know, red label, that must be like a GTI slice of bread that I've got in there. So I've bought it, and honestly, it's incredible. The standard of bread here is unbelievable, and there's no shit food in France. Everywhere you go,
that annoys
it's nice.
you. Why are you so annoyed by something being good? Is this why you hate Lewis Hamilton?
No, because I don't want the French to be good at stuff, or I don't want the French to be better at stuff than we are, because there's that old rivalry there, isn't there, where the French are just so bloody cool. They're all so sexy and fashionable and, you know, cool. And it'd just be nice to see them just trip over in the street sometimes, wouldn't it?
I don't think they're all sexy and fashionable and cool.
No, they are. They definitely are. Even the homeless people here are really sexy. I've found myself questionably aroused whilst walking down the street.
Oh, God.
Oh, that is disturbing.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just annoying. It's like,
I'm waiting for that knock on the door now. Come in here, Johnny.
Johnny, come back to bed.
I would just like to see them trip and fall on their face sometimes. And now their football team's getting good as well, and their cars are getting better, and there's so much nice cheap wine, apart from the really expensive wine, and there's red label GTI bread. The cheese
is expensive though.
The cheese is amazing. I've had like a whole cube of brie in like a day. And I'm worried I'm going to have pretty vivid nightmares. I've had pretty vivid nightmares for the last couple of nights, and I think it's purely because of my cheese consumption.
And your breath might put off the homeless people, so be careful with that.
I don't know. It's France, isn't it? I think they're all at it, so I think I'm going to be all right.
I bet you can't get a decent curry though.
No, there's a lot of. I had a good Chinese though. Interestingly, there was a Chinese place down the road apparently, and they've invented some things for French people. Because they realised that French people didn't like Chinese food. So what they've basically done is... And my friend Audrey, she had a Chinese dish that was called this. Beef and cheese. That is just French food. So and that is her favourite, quotation mark, Chinese dish.
Beef and cheese.
Beef and cheese. It's actually called on the menu... beef and cheese, but in French, obviously.
That's like going to a Chinese over here and having like fish and chips or something.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Can you go and order another beef and cheese and then take a photo of it for us so we can see, share it with the world?
I would, but you had to ring them up, and the problem is my French is so incredibly appalling and offensive to everybody who's been born in this land.
But I've heard your Mandarin is excellent, John.
I've been.
Don't even be tempted to try it.
We're going down a dark path here, guys. Turn around.
I thought it was my plum that they said was was wonderful, King. Maybe not. Maybe it is my Mandarin. Okay, maybe. Yeah. So
moving on.
It was a fruit joke, Ben.
I'm not gonna try and order beef and cheese. It also came on a stick.
What?
Yeah, it was a Chinese beef and cheese on a stick. I had what was called chicken, and that came in kind of like a Chinese sauce, actually. So that was Chinese as far as I'm concerned. That tasted Chinese, but I was looking at Audrey eating this beef and cheese, and I was thinking, it's just not Chinese. And she said, yeah, it's because the French don't like Chinese. Nevertheless, the Chinese takeaways have persisted and have invented a load of new French dishes to palm off as Chinese and sell to them. So how enterprising is that? Bravo.
And this is why China's going to take over the world.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're well on their way now.
Because they're ingenious, and
they are.
Even in France, the country of haute cuisine, they're managing to sell their wares, albeit adapted slightly.
Adapted for the market. Oh, there was another thing I noticed when I was driving around in France, and that is that there's these two lane parts of the road going through some of these towns that are on the outskirts of Paris, also known as Paris, and they've decided to put sleeping policemen lengthways along the road in the middle of the second lane.
Okay.
So that if you drive in what used to be the second lane, you rip the bottom of your car off.
What?
Yeah.
So rather than just removing the lane and filling it in with something, they've just put these things so that you break your car.
Yes. It's a giant, long, concrete sausage that goes along the middle of this, what used to be the old lane. They haven't painted it. They haven't warned you it's going to appear. It just appears. And it's about 1.5 feet off the ground. And Audrey drove over it accidentally the other day, and it was scraping on the bottom of the car.
Jesus.
Yeah, and there's no warning for it, so a lot of people see it at the last minute.
Traffic, though.
Yes, true. Yeah, a lot of people see it at the last minute and swerve into the other lane, which is just mad. It's not painted; it's the same colour as the road, so it's hard to see from a distance. It's just bonkers. It's just bonkers. What do the French think of sometimes?
I've got to say, that sounds very French, though, doesn't it?
Oh, it's one of those things that just annoys you about the French. One of those many things that just annoys you. I love France, and I love French people, and everything about France is great, but God, it's annoying here sometimes.
Not their roads.
Yeah, you love everything about France except their roads.
No, I love their
lack
motorways.
Of Chinese food, and how rude they are. and how good their bread is, that annoys you. And how good their cheese is, and the mixture of prices in wine. But other than that, you really like France.
It's a love-hate relationship, as it has been for the last several centuries. But the motorways, although the motorways are incredibly expensive, and that is bollocks as far as I'm concerned, and it's also annoying they can't put the ticket machine on the other side just to help British people occasionally. Oh no!
There's a reason for not putting one on the other side.
No, let's not put it on the other side as well, because no, God forbid we help the British do something that doesn't make them incredibly embarrassed every time they have to get a ticket or pay something. Aside from that, the motorways are incredible, and furthermore, the French know how to drive on a motorway as well, unlike the British public, who are shit at driving on the motorways and should all be killed.
Jesus.
On that bombshell.
Yeah. I mean, I've only got one thing to say to you, John, and that's your issue with having to move across, or rather get out of your car and walk around to get a ticket. Why do you think I took Ben with me when I went to Italy all those years ago? I didn't want to spend time with him. I just needed someone to pick the tickets up for the motorways.
I'm a very talented passenger. I'm good at reaching out the window.
And don't let anyone tell you any different, Ben.
Ben is the ultimate passenger.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Emma married him as well, you know.
After a lengthy spell of not recording for a variety of reasons, one of which being that John had no form of recording because he's a technological retard.
Can we say that?
He's now obtained a brand new microphone.
Yes, and I've got my thumb right in the socket at the bottom of it.
Yeah, people don't need to know that, John.
Okay.
Who needs a mic stand when you've got a screw thread on your thumb?
Yeah, you just stick your thumb in the hole there. Works wonders.
Does it now?
Moving on very quickly. So, how do you like this new mic then, John? It's better than the old one, isn't it?
Yeah, much better. And because a lot of people ask us, guys, what do you use to record? How do you record? Is it a real thing? And we say yes to all of those things.
Obviously, previously John used a baked bean can and a bit of string, but he's now upgraded because he's been allowed to buy something that can be powered by electricity.
Yes,
which is very exciting for all of us.
Yes, especially me, because previously the baked bean tin was all I could actually operate without actually breaking it, because I seem to break everything to do with technology. I haven't broken this yet, but this is the first time I've used it. It is a blue snowball microphone, and it was around £50 on Amazon, and it's actually a lie, because it's not blue, it's black, because I've ordered the black one. And the thing that annoys me the most about it is that it says blue on the front, because the company's name is Blue, even though they make some microphones that aren't blue, which is a little bit frustrating, to be honest. But aside from that, it's a very, very pleasant thing to hold in your hand with your thumb in the bottom of it. And I'm hoping that this episode turns out really nice with my voice, and I sound really lovely on it. Obviously I don't know at the moment, but hopefully it will. So if you're listening to the podcast, do tweet me at the Jonny Edge to let me know if I sound lovely on this episode. If I don't bother tweeting me, or if you do, I'll block you.
To try and cheer you up, John, about the name and the colour issue, do you know what blue stands for?
No. Oh, can I guess?
Yeah, well, you can. I don't think you'll get it, but you can have one guess.
Big, long, undulating email.
Okay. I mean, I like the words that you used. They were all very evocative.
They started with the right letters.
Yeah, they started with the right letters. It's Baltic Latvian Universal Electronics.
What?
Baltic, as in the sea. Latvian, as in from Latvia. Universal, as in the company that make films. Electronics, as in things that are powered by electricity.
So was this microphone made in Latvia?
No, but one of the guys who set up the company was a Latvian recording engineer or something similar. But yeah, they're based in California, so the name is kind of irrelevant. But it's just because I think it's just because the guy was from Latvia that
Well, that's even more annoying, really, isn't it?
Because he's Latvian and it's an American company.
Why can't it just have a big Latvian flag on it? I thought that would be a nice design touch. Like, you know, there's this big stripe around the side of it, which I'm going to call the equator.
Yep.
If that was turned into a Latvian flag, wouldn't that be much cooler?
It would be.
Yep, there we go. I've improved it.
Okay.
So, blue microphone people, if you're listening, replace your equator with a tasteful Latvian flag stripe for optimum design stuff, please. And then pay me 10% of the royalties.
I suppose there's a semi-sensible message in here as well, though, that we all actually use the Snowball mics, and they're actually pretty good, I think, on the whole. They're pretty sturdy, decent sound, pretty good value. So if you're tempted to start podcasting or just doing voiceover work or anything else like that, then quite a good option.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the proof is that obviously Ben and I have had blue microphones since we started. So that's over 2 years we've been using the same microphones. John has only just joined the Blue Brigade, as we shall now.
This is my third microphone.
Yeah, so there you go. And we've had quite a few issues just generally with John and technology, but we're hoping that this is the one. And yeah, as I say, as Ben and I have had them for so long, we think even John can manage not to break it too quickly.
Well, it's round, which means if I drop it, it'll just roll and not just smash, which is quite clever. And also, I've noticed that this is the first microphone that I have plugged into my laptop where it's actually just detected that it is indeed a microphone and has switched it to, or made it easy for me to find the microphone settings thing, which allows me to say that, yes, I am actually using this black blue snowball to record my voice. And that's very helpful, because some of my other microphones had other confusing fucking names that made no sense whatsoever, like context smash right audio. Like, what the fuck does that mean? But no, when you plug this in, it comes up with blue snowball, and you know that that is your black microphone.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, mine's white, so I suppose...
So yours actually looks like a snowball. And mine is actually blue, which helps as well. You're the one that's picked the silly colour.
Mine looks like an enlarged rabbit poo.
Good to know. So there we go. Blue microphones are obviously the way forward.
Yes, so
if
that's
you're considering
what
starting
use.
a podcast.
Yes. And apparently lots of other podcast people use them as well.
Mm,
Even people who might be more professional than us.
Or better than us.
Which is basically anyone who's ever done any podcasting or anything else.
Yes, some people who are actually quite good at podcasting and do it properly and get millions of sponsors, unlike us. Someone needs to fucking sponsor us.
Blue microphones, if you'd like to sponsor our podcast.
No, they're not interested. I've just described their microphone as a giant rabbit poo. So, you know,
well,
they're not interested.
One. I think Ben and I have been quite complimentary of them.
I mean, I like it. I'm just...
Maybe Ben and I could get individual sponsorships. Just to really spite you.
That would really annoy me. I think I'm quite a difficult person to sponsor, though. So maybe that's what's holding Smooth
Traffic. You could have just stopped
back.
at, I'm quite a difficult person, to be fair.
Harsh. I'm going to let that go, Ben. I'm letting a lot of things go in this episode. I'm going to let that go as well.
You must be drunk or full of cheese.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Both.
Living the dream.
I know we bang on about autonomous cars quite a lot, but I was at a technology conference recently and someone asked a question about autonomous vehicles, and I thought it was quite an interesting one. So they were asking whether an autonomous vehicle would stop if you stepped out in front of it, which obviously the answer is yes. So they said, how on earth are you going to ensure a smooth traffic flow if people are just walking out in front of cars all the time? I thought that's quite a valid point, because if you're somewhere like London where there's people trying to cross the road all over the place, and you know for certain that the car you step out in front of will stop, why would you wait for crossings and things? You'd probably just walk out in front of cars all the time and get them to stop for you. So that is going to absolutely knacker the road systems if people just cross whenever they fancy it. There'll be certain people that will just always do it. Obviously they're sensible.
Would that then become an etiquette thing?
Probably.
In the same way that, most things should be an etiquette thing.
Yeah, but there are a lot of arseholes out there that will just do it because they can.
But does this mean that we're going to have to relearn how to use the road as pedestrians as much
possibly
as drivers?
I think what we should probably do is have autonomous vehicles saying that actually 9 out of 10 times they'll stop. So, just if you're an arse, maybe it's got image recognition. This guy's done it already twice today. I'm going to hit him.
Kill him.
Just gently.
Kill
just
him.
a bit of a thud.
Only a gentle nudge.
Yeah, just bump him out of the way, back onto the pavement.
I've had a great idea.
Oh, Christ.
You know Robot Wars?
Yeah.
You know when Robot Wars used to be good, back in the old days?
Are you installing a flipper on the front of the car?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm going to call up the person that engineered Chaos 2 to put a pneumatic flipper on the front of all autonomous cars, so anyone that walks out in front, it will stop, but it'll stop with the flipper just an inch under their foot, and then it's going to just launch them. Flip. Right out of the arena. Go on, off you go. And then they can just come to rest somewhere else. And then
Or a water cannon on the front, maybe? That would help.
Oh,
Just blast them
yeah.
off the road.
Yeah, get Super Soaker
A
involved.
flamethrower.
Yeah, a flamethrower.
Like,
No, that's brilliant. Flamethrowers and spikes. So you can burn them, and whilst they're running around burning, you can then ensnare them on the spike so that you can just carry on with your journey.
yeah.
And then once you've dropped off the person who's in the back, who's now feeling a bit nauseous from the smell of burning flesh, that autonomous car can then drive to the nearest hospital establishment to get that person covered in burns cream, and then they'll make a happy recovery and remember not to do it again.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sorry, I was just thinking Robot Wars, and I was thinking about Sergeant Bash.
What a
I
program.
got distracted, sorry.
Sergeant Bash. What a guy. What an absolute
Because
guy.
they didn't bring him back for the new ones, so...
Did they not?
Well, that's because the new series was bollocks.
No, it was alright.
No, it was
I
bollocks.
quite like Dara O'Brien.
Yeah, I like Dara
He's
O'Brien, but
he's well suited to the role as well.
what's with all the hateful, shitty, emotional films about, oh, we made this robot, and it's like, it's our whole life, and the slow motion of someone just wanking off next to a fire extinguisher or something like that. Rubbish.
I'm not sure we're watching the same version that you are.
It was
You were
rubbish.
watching Robot Whores.
Oh, Ben. You came up with that far too quickly.
Yeah,
Pervert.
he did, didn't he? Search his history.
Anyway, autonomous
Here
cars.
a week.
Um,
Yes, I think it's a valid question, though, isn't it? To be fair, no one really had an answer to that. You know, what would happen? I think you're right there, Rob. We'd have to just sort of rely on etiquette and people actually crossing the road sensibly again. But it does, you know, it does beg a question: how is it going to work in the cities?
Do you know you just said the term valid question, Ben?
Yeah.
I've got a question for you about autonomous cars and your fancy dandy future getting around transport thing.
Right.
The other day, I was using my phone and it was on 17% battery. Within the
Right.
next 30 seconds, it had dropped to 2%. What happens when an autonomous car powered by electric does that?
What on earth were you doing with your phone that made it drop so quickly?
I
he
don't
was
know.
watching Robot Whores.
It was. He's streaming at high definition.
Get out of the arena. Go on.
Well, I'd like to think that the software would detect the battery level a bit more efficiently.
Yeah.
But also, it would just stop if it ran out of power, wouldn't it? It's not going to kill anyone.
Okay, what happens if that's your Tesla?
Well, you'd have charged it before you got to that point, wouldn't you? What happens in your petrol vehicle if you're driving along and you run out of petrol in your vehicle?
Well, you can walk somewhere with a can and get someone to put more go juice in it, and then you can just pour it in. But you can't do that with an electric car, can you, Ben?
Oh my God! Think of the market that this opens up for rechargeable battery packs. Because obviously at the moment you can get just a quick charger to plug your phone into to get a couple of charges out of that. But
You'll have a little unfoldable sort of solar panel that you just stick on the roof of the car, sit back for half an hour, let it charge itself.
No, rubbish.
in this country,
No, all right, that's an issue. But then, you know, what happened with cars before they invented the jerry can? You know, you'd have the same problem.
I think the jerry can was invented before cars.
No, definitely not. It's a modern invention.
Ben,
Look
are
it
you
up.
doing a Johnny argument?
Yes, I am very much so, because it's a Johnny question. So there's only one way to.
But it's a valid
What
question.
what happened to horses
When they ran out of.
when they
were hungry.
Yeah,
when they ran out of
were
energy.
hungry. Oh yeah, and then somebody invented a feed bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
So there are loads
Yes,
of different.
that's how feed bags were
technologies.
invented.
Well, see, a horse can walk and feed at the same time.
Yeah,
Wow.
can't you?
I get out of breath.
That's because you're getting fat.
Like you're chewing on a sandwich and you have to sort of open your mouth to breathe at the same time. Like, it's really hard work.
Why are you breathing through your mouth?
Because I'm out of breath.
And you'll get used to it, John. Don't worry.
So
it gets easier the fatter you get.
Can horses breathe through their mouth?
What? Hang on. What?
It's the wrong podcast for that sort of question.
Oh my goodness.
If you know the answer, tweet us at Smooth Traffic. Can horses breathe through their mouth? If so, that could revolutionise horse transport. Tweet us at Smooth Traffic.
You moron.
I'd like to talk about secret exhausts.
Oh, now we're talking.
Not as crude as it sounds. But something that I noticed on Twitter recently is that the brand new Peugeot 3008 has these really cool exhausts on the back of the car. But as highlighted by Chris Pollitt, at the Pollitt, Pollitt, the exhausts don't actually feed into these.
How do you spell that again, King? Can I just check that?
No.
Pollitt.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. Carry on.
That wasn't up for discussion. Anyway, so he's taken a couple of photos of the 3008, and from the back, it looks like it's got these lovely designed exhausts, which are in keeping with the style of the car, and then underneath, the exhaust actually pops out just behind that with a standard exhaust pipe.
Mm.
And apparently this isn't an exclusive thing to Peugeot.
No.
The replies to this tweet alone have brought up examples in Audis, Mercedes. You know, we're talking about big companies that put a lot into styling, and they're just fake exhausts. I don't understand the point.
It does bother me a little bit. I kind of think I understand the design thing, saying, "Oh, it makes it look smart," but at the same time, it feels a little bit deceptive to me. So it depends on what mood I'm in at the time, whether I think it's outrageous or whatever. But I think it's sort of mis-selling it as something a bit more powerful and cool than it is. If you just got a shitty little exhaust behind it.
But Peugeot have been doing that for years anyway, with selling cars as something that are more powerful and cooler than they are. So it's just what they do. Do you remember my Octavia VRS I used to have?
Yeah.
You remember the twin exhausts on the back of that?
Vaguely.
Fake.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
So
so it's quite a common thing then.
Yeah,
but
it's a common thing. It's crap.
Crap is exactly
that
the
tweet
word
in
for
particular had quite a few responses and retweets and likes and all that, so it felt like it was something that wasn't particularly well known, even if it is something that's been going on for a long time. So certainly something that I'll be looking out for, especially when we go to another event like an SMMT, and we just, I'm just going to be on my back all the time looking at the exhausts of cars and seeing if they're real or not.
All right. Let's send the better,
weird,
Ben.
I think it's fair though to report fairly on these things.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And I mean,
I
I
agree.
think we. This is going to sound a bit weird, but we're fortunate enough to have grown up in a generation where every car that had an exhaust showing was, for the most part, was a genuine exhaust. And if you saw something with 2 or even 4 exhaust pipes, you knew they were all connected to the exhaust system. Whereas as time has progressed, particularly with a lot of modding and stuff where people have possibly not been able to afford a high-end exhaust system, they will fit fake pipes, as I believe they're referred to in the modding community.
Love pipes.
And and it just ends up looking a little bit silly. But yeah, for the most part, I think maybe we were a bit spoiled when we were younger by not having this issue of exhaust pipes weren't part of the design sort of package.
When you were young, I'm not sure the internal combustion engine was part of it, to be fair.
Well, no, I mean, we still had horses back when I was a youngster, so
food bags.
I invented the feed bag, I told you that.
Yeah, but that wasn't for the horse, was it, King?
Of course not.
In case he gets hungry
I'm an animal.
on the trip.
An absolute animal. Full of Viennetta and donuts.
feel like I want to do another food challenge now.
Excellent.
Good.
If anyone's got any suggestions over what food challenge King can do, then do let us know.
Yeah, please do tweet us at Smooth Traffic. And if you've got any views on the exhaust debacle, then maybe tweet
or any
us.
other examples.
I've got a view, and I find it quite funny that King thinks we've been spoiled by having real exhaust pipes. We grew up and we were spoiled. We were spoiled because every exhaust pipe we looked at was the real thing. All of our pipes were the real thing. None of these fake plastic pipes. Our pipes are real. We were spoiled in our youth.
With cars back then. You knew exactly where you were going to get all the bad, harmful gases coming from.
King, were you spoiled at Christmas by having an entire nectarine to yourself?
Nectarines? We didn't have nectarines
Just a stick.
then. Good grief. Oh, look at you living the life.
He had a piece
Riley.
of coal painted orange.
Orange? We didn't have orange paint. Good grief.
Good grief.
So what else have we been spoiled by in our
I just got a
automotive
rock that
youths?
was painted to look like coal. That's how good my Christmas was.
Yeah, what else have we been spoiled with,
Taking
King?
this too far.
This should be a new segment. Kingy's look back on the glorious past.
Chips.
You know,
I
Michael
want to talk about
Portillo.
chips. I want to talk about this. Is a serious point, and I don't know if I
Alright.
talked about it last time, but it's
Chips.
It's still valid. What happened?
Kicking
to
off
chips?
about chips.
What do
You
you mean?
you
chips?
know what I'm talking about, John. What happened to chips? Everywhere you go now,
Yeah.
if you go to a restaurant, whatever kind it is, if it serves chips, you get a choice of fat chunky chips, which are triple cooked or whatever, or fries. There's no longer chips, just your standard chips that you used to get. There's
You're
no
against
chips.
sweet potato fries, aren't you? as
No,
well?
I've got no issue with sweet potato fries, and I got no issue with fries or chunky chips. But sometimes you just want regular chips. And like John and I went to Cow a while ago in Bath, which is
Cow. It's very nice.
a lovely steak.
It's lovely, isn't it? Oh,
restaurant.
best steak I've ever had. Great. Great.
And there I just thought, this would be really nice just with some regular chips. No, chunky chips or fries.
What did you choose in the end, King?
I went with chunky chips because I thought the fries were.
He walked out.
What's this abomination?
I just took the slab.
Fuck this. I'm out.
I didn't have any. I just had the slab of meat by itself. And
What
do you want on the side of
modern
that?
day
Just a
culture,
second
King?
steak, please. That'd be lovely.
Do you get annoyed with all the colour in your television? Does that piss you off?
No, I like colour. Colour's nice.
So what you're advocating, King, is just a return to the days.
I just want the option to have regular chips. Everything's become so filthy and hipster everywhere that you don't get normal choices for things anymore.
Okay.
I think that is a valid
sound
point.
like such an old
I know
man.
that this has got a bit out of hand, but that is a valid point. It's really hard just to get regular food in a lot of places these days. Everything's been sort of hipstered up.
So what would you describe as regular food? Like what? Give us an example of
regular
that.
chips.
Okay, like
Just
we've
normal
got
chips.
That's literally all he eats.
Maybe that should be the eating challenge, the next Rob King eating challenge. Chips. But only if we can
just
find
as
normal
many
chips.
things similar to chips, but not chips, and we just make him eat them all. Piss him off.
Just a kilo bag of McCain's home fries.
King, how do you feel about the famous crisp chipsticks?
See, now I've got no issue with chipsticks. I was never
But don't
really
sometimes
a big
you
fan.
just want
Have you
chips?
No, because I
King, have you ever had polenta fries? Have you tried those?
have. They're quite pleasant, but they're not chips. Polenta.
So what you want
In
is to
chip
go to a
form.
shop and
I just
not
want
have
regular
anything.
chips. Why are you struggling with this? You're struggling with this because you're trying to bait me. But
No,
I just
no,
want regular
I'm actually.
chips.
I'm genuinely slightly confused. So you don't want a choice of chips. You just
No,
want chips.
No, I'm happy for there to be a choice of chips, but I want
Yeah.
one of the choices to be chips.
So
I've got no issue with the options of fries and chunky chips, but sometimes you just want regular chips.
so
I've never heard you so animated about anything. This is a real problem for you, isn't it?
I'm
So
laughing so
passionate
much I'm
about
going to
chips,
shit
mate.
myself.
Just want regular chips.
Wait, so the chunky chip is not a chip
here.
in your view, then? Is that right?
What's the sort of the
No,
correct
I'm
dimensions for a chip?
I'm not saying that chunky chips and fries aren't chips. I'm just saying that what used to be between them was a chip. Just a regular, bog standard chip.
What happens when you go to France and they call their crisps chips? Does that upset you as well?
No.
When you ask for chips,
No,
they give you crisps.
These are pointless comments. This is like saying, biscuits and cookies in America. Just because they don't know what biscuits are, that's not my fault. But
Yeah,
but everyone knows what a chip is. And I've got one on my shoulder about this.
See, I've been a bit confused by that. So what you're talking about is like the size and the width of the actual piece of potato that goes into the fryer.
Precisely. Yeah.
So maybe there should be a uniformed chip.
I'm pretty sure there used to be. It just used to be chips, and then fries came along, and then suddenly these chunky chips that have got to be triple, quadruple cooked. And
do you remember when
I just want the
there used to
option
be
for
something
regular
called
chips? I know
the
that you're
EU.
delighting in this and my misery, but sometimes I just want regular chips.
Well, no, because I've thought that the EU could do something to protect the chip, couldn't it? That's what it would have used to do. It would have stopped people
like the
being able
pasty
to.
and
Yeah,
the Melton
or
Mowbray
the
pork
melted
Cheddar and
Mowbray
champagne
pork
and all
pie.
those sorts of things.
Yeah, they would say, okay, a chip has to be uniform in this way and that way, and that is a chip, and chip must be offered in certain places, otherwise it is, illegal.
Didn't they do something similar with the shape and size of bananas?
I don't know. I thought that was that actually true, or was that just
I
some
don't know
sort
if
of...
that was true, but there were certainly
okay.
rumblings about it, weren't there?
Yeah.
That you had to have a particular angle of curve on the banana for it to be a banana or something.
Sounds like one of those fake news stories that comes out to get people to do something they shouldn't. I don't know, like vote leave. But yeah, the bit you could have actually done that with chips.
Maybe
So
our petition to the EU.
Maybe that's what you should do. Make a petition to have a uniform size and, uniform size of potato.
Yeah, it's not.
That
it's
is a
not
chip.
so much like obviously the length of chips, because you always get different sizes of chips, because otherwise, Anyway, let's not get into that. But it's it's more the width of it, and fries are obviously very skinny. Chunky chips are, by their very name, chunky. But, regular chips just used to be a sort of regular uniform width. You just can't get them in a lot of places. Shut up, Ben.
I can't believe we're still talking about this, to be honest.
So what do you normally choose then when you go to a place, King?
Chips.
But if there's only chunky or fries...
It depend. It'll depend what I'm having and how I'm feeling, John.
Well, let's say that it's what you always have, King, which is gammon.
But then most places that I go to that, if I order gammon steak, they do regular chips.
I see triple cooked chips are much better for gammon.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you cook a chip 3 times?
Boil it.
It's magic.
Yeah.
Grill
I
it.
don't know, but they're just delicious, alright? Leave it at that.
Alright. I'll let it go. I've let so much go in this episode. This is a new me.
Yeah, so fake exhausts. What a pain.
Well, following up from King's rather salty decision to get salty about chips, I have brought a new computer game for the PlayStation 4, and it's a rather special computer game because I've been playing this game since the 90s when I was but a pup. And
I thought you said it was new.
Yeah, it is new. It is, but it is also old. But it is new. Gran Turismo Sport on the PlayStation 4, which is Gran Turismo's first crack at the next gen console, so we say. And it's all a bit of a change, really, because in the old days, Gran Turismo used to have like 9 billion cars, a load of tracks, and you would just race against the computer, and you would just happily gather credits and save up money to buy cool cars like a Mazda 787B or a Bugatti. But anyway, on the new game, you've only got about 150 cars, and that's actually not very many on a racing game, and that has annoyed a lot of people. But this is a different kind of attempt at a racing game, because what Gran Turismo are trying to do now is get the game ready to do esporty stuff, basically, which I don't understand, but Ben will explain some other time, where people race each other online to compete for the ultimate prize, which is a big, shiny, weird trophy. And Gran Turismo have made that. And a lot of the tournaments and racing that's going to take place is actually endorsed by the FIA. So people are going to have a chance to compete in real FIA events on Gran Turismo Sport and have the chance to obtain a genuine FIA digital racing license, basically. It's a drastic change from what Gran Turismo used to be. Gone are the old tracks like Grand Valley East, Deep Forest Reverse, and those kind of classic Gran Turismo tracks in that sort of Trial Mountain, for example. Trial Mountain, what a circuit. Because the new circuits that have been brought in are designed to be good racing circuits, so circuits that you can have a really good race on against other people. There's daily racing challenges, for example, online, so a new circuit is brought out, what's meant to be each day, but so far has been about once every few days, and you can qualify, set a time, and then you'll go into a grid with other races and you'll race online, and it's actually very, very good. Slightly frustrating at times because now there is a sportsmanship rating system as well as a driver rating system, which in theory should be brilliant, because if you've ever played something like Forza online, it is absolute dog mess, because everybody just crashes into each other, causes chaos, and it just all kicks off. It's just mad. It's not actually racing, it's just smashing into each other and being twats. On Gran Turismo you can't do that without suffering a drop in your skill rating and driver rating and the sportsmanship rating, which is the crucial bit. Sometimes that is brilliant. Other times it is wank, because I was on pole position for a race and I was thinking, oh great, I'm on pole position for a race online. That means I'm going to get punted off at the first corner, but if that does happen, at least that guy's sportsmanship rating will go down. That happens. Driving into the first corner, Jonny gets punted off, beanbagged the fuck off the track, and his rating goes down. So my rating went down because I got punted off the track. And to me, that's a broken system, because that shouldn't happen. I shouldn't lose sportsmanship points because some other driver is a twat. I hope he's listening. Overall, the game has got flaws, I will admit. It's a bit dodgy, it's frozen a few times, I've had to restart the console a few times. The skill rating is a pain in the arse. The campaign mode is next to non-existent. It is all about racing online, but the races that I've had online have been really, really good, really entertaining, and they mean something, because you really want to win, and you really want to come in the best position that you can. And that's a good thing, because often when I've played racing games online, I haven't given a toss, because everyone drives like a wanker. But now you're competing against people with similar ratings, similar sportsmanship, that sort of thing. You actually get people apologising in the lobby between races, going, oh, sorry about that, sorry for the contact there, mate, sorry about that. Which is unusual, because if you play another racing game, what you'll get instead is, fuck you, mate, fuck you, no, fuck you, no, fuck you, mate, and over again. But Gran Turismo is not like that, so I think it's getting quite a good community in that sense. Some people are annoyed that there's not enough cars and stuff. I'm sure DLC will sort that at some point. But it's nice to see Gran Turismo trying something different. You can't just keep making the same game over and over again and hoping that just keeps going. You have to try something different at some point, and they have. And I think it's really, really good. So I think a lot of the ratings have been sort of like average, sort of 6, 7 out of 10. I would agree with that. It's not the bee's knees. It's not the best game I've ever played, but actually playing it, the driving is great, the physics is great, the actual controlling the car feels realistic. It's something you can jump into and learn through the licenses and stuff and the tests, like Gran Turismo always has done. And having played Gran Turismo since I was a kid, I'm sure that I'm a better driver on the road because I played Gran Turismo and learned about car control than had I would been if I hadn't have played it. And I think it's a very important game for that matter. And actually, I think something like that would be very useful to give to children in schools and driving lessons and stuff, because it actually teaches you how to control a car. And there's not much of that. So, yeah, good effort, I'd say. Gran Turismo, nice to see you do something different. I am a fanboy, but I do admit it has its flaws. So, yeah, it's a thumbs up from me. Get it. And then you can add me on the PlayStation Network if you like, and we can have a race. And if you pump me off, I will fucking swear at you. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But if your sportsmanship rating goes down more than mine, I'll let it go.
Wonderful.
So yeah, that's it. That's my.
I mean,
Gran Turismo
I might invest
Sport.
in it.
I would wait for the price to drop.
Yeah, precisely that. Because my issue with racing games has always been that, obviously, if a lot of it is down to sportsmanship, I don't consider myself to be an erratic driver in real life. But if I'm playing a racing simulation,
You are appalling, aren't you?
You're an arsehole.
You just crash into everyone.
Because the thing is that in my mind, I know that it's not real, so I take more risks in terms of late braking and things because I know that nobody's going to die at the end of the day.
And that's why you brake at 10 metres before the corner.
Nobody's going to get injured.
When you play games like, Forza and Gran Turismo or FIFA, for example, you always play it like you're playing Grand Theft Auto. In my opinion, you always try and kill someone.
It's true. It's true. He does try and kill people. That is a good observation, Ben.
Well, the interesting thing might be then, if I get Gran Turismo Sport, will it suddenly make me, or will I try to be more disciplined with it, and will it possibly make me a better gamer generally? I mean, obviously not, because, I love snapping people on Pro Evo, but...
What's the punishment for having a low sportsmanship rating?
It will. I
Death.
mean, I've yes, death. Someone comes round your house and shoots you in the face. No, I've had a low sportsmanship rating because I lost my temper a couple of times because I was being permanently punished for stuff that I didn't start. So I ended up in races with people who had a low sportsmanship rating, and it is awfully difficult to win a race or to get back up to a decent standard when everybody is behaving like a twat.
Okay, so basically you get bunched in with people with similar ratings.
It's like getting relegated. Yeah. It's like getting relegated, as Everton are going to find out this season. You can play like quite nice football in the top division. You can do some quite good stuff. People sort of respectful, and then you go down a couple of divisions and people behave like animals. There's dog shit on the pitch. There's people's ankle bones sticking out of their foreheads because they're so badly injured. It's like that. And it's the racing equivalent of that, basically. There's people like backwards on the first corner doing fuck knows. There's just shit all over the track. It's horrible. And I was delighted to try and build up my sportsmanship rating again to get back to where I was. Not that I should have been punished in the first place, because it's buggy as fuck, that system. I didn't deserve to be punished for anything, as far as I'm concerned. But it's...
See, now that side of it I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Because if I was dumped in with the other badly behaved people, I would find a great sense of achievement by proving that I'm better than them all. So I would enjoy the sort of climbing up out of the doldrums rather than having to be nice from the off. If I can have a bit of time just being a bit of a twat to begin with, and then I can just show all these other twats up because I'm better than them, that would give me a huge sense of achievement.
I mean, I don't know if that's a good sentiment because that sounds awfully... Well, I think is the word, King. But but it did make me feel good to get out of that area. Yeah. It did, because I was like, oh, thank God for that, because I won't have to see those absolute inbreds anymore. And that's always a good feeling. When you get to go away from inbreds, it's always a good feeling. Well, this is the end. The end of Smooth Traffic episode 36. Don't worry, it's not the end of the world just yet. So, a few things I have to ask you to do now. Please go onto our YouTube. We've got a couple of new videos out. I think we're doing the Suzuki Ignis and the Nissan Micra on the YouTube at the moment. So, if you could go along to our YouTube, do the subscribey thing, do the likey thing, and watch all of our videos as well, and just tell us how great we are. Don't tell us we're shit, because I'll block you. That would be great. The same applies to all of the podcast things that you get this podcast from. If you could do the subscriber thing, that is good as well, because it actually helps us quite a lot in ways that I don't fully understand. Anything else? Chat, have we covered everything? King, do you want to talk about chips anymore or anything? Ben, do you want to talk about anything?
Bonus points if you heard a cat.
I always wonder why we ask you to do those technical bits at the end. I'm not really sure why.
No, I
literally have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm terrible at that. I'm actually terrible at that. But anyway, I think the people understand. And yes, there was a cat in this episode, so if you can tell me at what minute and second he appeared in, I will give you fuck all as a prize. But you can have my respect.
I thought you were going to say, I'll block you.
You can have my respect for paying attention, at least. Yeah, so catch us on the next episode. Tweet us at Smooth Traffic, at the Jonny Edge, at Robert King ESQ, and at the Face of Ben. Ben seems to be more active on Twitter than King nowadays, so maybe you should tweet him instead of King, because King is actually appalling at Twitter. I'm obviously brilliant at Twitter, and I have 1,300 and something followers, which is wonderful, absolutely wonderful, because it just shows how great I am at Twitter.
You sound like Donald Trump now. I'm brilliant at Twitter.
Greatest Twitter ever. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. I don't think we've got anything more to say. I guess, King, you can edit this so it sounds like I'm saying bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.